right, so let's get this started. So this is the Park Commission meeting of July 28th. In accordance with the open meeting law, please be advised that this meeting is being recorded and will be broadcast over the Lunenburg Public Access Channel and at some point uploaded to YouTube. So a quick roll call of who's here. Dave Passios.
Here.
Chris Sullivan.
Here.
And myself. So
And no, that was not a beer.
I don't know if Suzanne is coming. I have not heard from her at all. And like I said, I got a message just a little while ago saying that Anna wasn't going to be able to make it. So we're going to plow ahead without them here. Hold on, let me find my agenda. All right. Do we have any board comment? We have nobody from the public.
I don't have any comments, no.
Moving right along.
No.
Nothing yet.
Nothing
We have another one at the end. So, all right. The next thing I have on my agenda is approval of minutes. I can tell you that we're very far behind, although I think we were offered an olive branch today. We have hired somebody, or the town has hired somebody to do our minutes for us. So that woman's contact information was sent over to me this afternoon, and I was told that she can actually help with the minutes that we still need to get done. So I'm going to reach out to her. So hopefully in the next meeting or two, we'll be able to play some major catch up on getting those minutes approved. DPW director is on vacation this week. He did send over a couple of things in relation to the temporary recreation director position. I had asked what the process was going to be because in the past we had been involved with at some point interviewing the people that the previous DPW director had narrowed it down to. And he said that because of the timeline this time around, he doesn't think there's going to be enough time for that. And considering that the candidate that I think they were hoping to be able to move forward now doesn't sound like it's going to pan out, I think he's probably right on that, especially if we don't meet again until later in August. So he said definitely if we ever have to hire somebody permanent, we'd be kept in the loop. But for now, he was just going to move ahead with him and Julie, the assistant town manager, talking to these folks and going from there. I did talk to Julie this afternoon via email and asked her what the status was. And she said that the search had to continue, which is why I'm assuming the person that they thought they were going to be able to put through, I guess is no longer a candidate. So she said she has a name that she's going to send over to Rob, but Julie's vacation and Rob's vacation are piggybacking each other. So they're she's sending it over to him thinking that he'll be able to do the majority of the interview on his own. So hopefully the next time we all talk, we'll have somebody. There is another week of camp scheduled, a multi-sport camp at TC Passios, and that starts the 9th of August. And that I've been told that the camp that's going on this week, it has been running smoothly without any problems. So hopefully that's the case there. So that's my update on that part. I feel like I'm missing something. If I am, feel free to remind me. Our next item is probably also going to be a quick one. It's the Marshall Park master planning discussion. I have met with Julie Beliveau over the phone. She's the assistant town manager, and told her what we were looking for. I provided her with some documents as well as a description of what Marshall Park is, from the size to what's there currently. I directed her to the video on YouTube, told her that we spoke about this at our last meeting. She was going to try to watch it, and she's going to start creating the document that we need to review before it goes out for bid. So it seems like it's going to be a fairly easy process. Chris, so she asked me for the survey results, and I did send over, I downloaded the, the CSV file from survey page. She asked if there was a compiled page. Is there the first page when you look at it that has the graphics with the pie charts and whatnot? Do you know if there's a way to download that?
I can check and see. I haven't tried to download.
Or can we
anything?
maybe give her access to it so she can see the survey results?
Yeah, I don't see why not, for sure.
Do you know if that's something that I can do, or do I need to have you do it?
I can do it.
Okay,
I think you may be able to do it because I think we're all editors of the file, but I can do that. I can do it while we're here now, I think.
so it's going to Julie Bella, is it Bellevue, Bellevue? It should come
Okay.
up, start typing it in. Yeah, she said that she doesn't need it right now. Like when earlier I said, yeah, I can work on getting that compiled for you or getting you the compiled document. And she said she doesn't need it right now. She just knows we're going to need it down the line. So she was happy to see that we had done that preliminary step.
Yeah, the pie charts and such, I'm not. I see download responses. I don't see anything that downloads the
You know what, then just
responses to like age demographic and
what I'll
residents.
do is let me go on and let me screenshot him and then I can put him together in one file for her because I have a feeling that that's what she would be providing to whoever wins this bid. So I can.
Or we just give them access to the file, to this.
Yeah,
document.
in the grand scheme, I guess it doesn't matter. It might be good to, it might be nice since we've talked about those results in a public meeting before. It might be nice to screenshot them and have them be part of a set of minutes. So that if anybody wanted to see the results themselves, they could.
Yeah, we could do that.
Does anyone have any questions or comments on what direction we're going in right now with the Marshall Park piece?
The only thing I keep asking is when are we going to have a definitive decision on the skate park? I think we need to keep pushing that conversation because I don't want to get to having somebody on board ready to help us with the plan and then not know what's going on with that.
So I think it's going to be a long time in coming, Dave. And here's why I say that. And I say long time, I don't necessarily mean years. They asked for a copy of the topographical everything. I did follow up with Anthony Cayozzo, and he said that Rob was going to try to make some time to go down there. I guess some digging needs to happen. So it sounds like they still have some stuff to do on the dirt piece of it. But I will definitely have another ongoing conversation with Anthony to keep the conversation open. When I talked to him, and I asked what the realistic timeline was, like, because we're not controlling any of the finances and I don't know what they have going on in the background. He was hopeful for, I think he said the end of the year, but I don't think they've hit their money target. So I'm not sure how realistic that is anyway, but I don't think it's going to be coming to us in the next month. But I will certainly talk to Anthony again and see if we can get.
One of our agenda items that we'll talk about, that we're going to be talking about a little bit later, is going to need equipment over there for test holes also. So we may be able to coordinate that.
Okay. All right. So why don't we move on to that, Dave, because it's the next agenda item anyway. So this is for permanent bathroom facilities at Marshall Park is the agenda item. And this agenda item was added after talking with Dave because he's had some conversations with the Board of Health.
Yep. I attended the Board of Health meeting a week ago, Monday, I believe it was. And excuse me, at that meeting, they had the portable toilet issue on their agenda. So I thought I should be there for the conversation. So there's been some documents sent from the Board of Health since then to, I think Karen's received it, and all of the people responsible for the parks properties and town properties in general that have portable toilets on it. So they've basically created a policy almost mimicking what we created 2 weeks ago. As part of that conversation and the groundwork to what I'm about to propose was laid actually a number of years ago while I was still on the Board of Health. There is a fund that the Board of Health has that's been sitting unused for a number of years. A few years ago, they advertised to the general public for any interest, and the money was originally granted by the state to help seniors and low-income families upgrade their septic systems around the time Title V first came into the Mass General laws and came into being, I should say. So it helped with a low interest, a loan that was paid through your tax bill and paid back to the account that the money sits in. Well, that whole program has gone completely idle. We did back then when we had these discussions in the Board of Health. We actually contacted, or the chair of the committee contacted the state a number of times, trying to ascertain what the state's position was on the money. And they said, basically, we have no information, even in the archives, about the program. So except for one person who has since retired or passed away, I don't remember which, in Boston, there's virtually nobody in Boston that even knows about this, what this grant was. But ultimately, at the end of the conversations with the state suggested to the local board that they do what they deemed fit with the money. And it was decided back then that we would try to do something in regards to what was originally intended for the money, and that was repairs of existing septic systems, whether it be residential, individual septic systems, or municipal. So then move forward to the past week or so and the issues with the portable toilets, so on and so forth. As a offshoot of the discussion at the last Board of Health meeting, we had another brief discussion about that process that we went through a number of years ago. And Parks is actually on the Board of Health's agenda officially for their August meeting, which should be the third Monday, we believe, in August. It may get moved to the fourth Monday, but they're not sure yet. And what will come out of that is that, or the discussions that we've had in the past week or so, basically the Board of Health is willing to release that money to pay for a repair project of the existing septic system that is there at Marshall Park. And just recently in the last day or two, extend funding to the point where possibly it would include the piping from the septic system to a potential bathroom building. And I've always thought that the best way to put municipal toilets in nowadays is to contract with a prefabricated, a company that does prefabricated bathrooms. They're all ADA compliant. They're state of the art, so on and so forth, with security locked doors and all kinds of great things. But when that building is delivered, there needs to be basically a concrete pad with the utilities stubbed up through it. And the Board of Health is saying now that the funding that they have available, which is up to about $105,000, can be made available through them for design, engineering, install of the septic system itself, the piping to the slab, and possibly the slab itself. So that's where I'm at this point with this. I wanted to go as far as I could with the information and bring the Board of Health forward as far as we could go. so that I could present as much information as possible this evening. Basically, this project is between the Board of Health and the Parks Commission, because the money will be paid directly, I believe, directly to the contractors that do the work. It is totally separate from the town's budget. It's money that's been sitting in this line item for many years. And, you know, the Board of Health feels that this is a good way to use it, and it will benefit the most people in town it could possibly benefit from any other projects that they've tried to come up with to use the money up. And this will be a grant. It will not be a loan. So that's where it stands at this point. I did do a little bit of calling around again, and I've misplaced the information I had on another company that had a really nice design on a prefabricated bathroom. So I will do some more research and come up with that again. I do have 2 quotes coming from a company down in Virginia, I believe it is. He claims that he's got 5 or 6 restrooms that he put in 20 years ago in a park in Springfield, Massachusetts. I haven't been able to really pin that down at this point, but I'm going to wait for his quotes to come up, so at least I have a ballpark number as to what the building itself could potentially cost. Thought process on what size building, that is soup to nuts available. My thought is that we construct or put a building there that has 2 unisex bathrooms, and then the utility room is usually in the middle. That would cover the more likely use, probably 95% of the time for the parks events that are there. If we had an exceptionally large event coming in, then because once the sanitary facilities are there in a permanent manner, then putting additional portable toilets is much easier for individual events, because they would only be placed on the property for the event and then removed. I think it would be a really good first step. One caveat to this is that the Board of Health chair would, his comment is he'd like to see the septic system in the ground before this coming winter. It can actually happen if we can agree very soon that we want to go in that direction. Couple questions I'm sure that are going to come up. Why don't we come in with sewer from Mass Avenue? That is an option. I talked with the sewer commission office actually today, and there are some interesting hurdles that would have to be navigated through to accomplish that. Number one, Marshall Park is not in the sewer district. Barb could not remember why it was carved out of the sewer district, but it is clearly on the map outside of the district. It's funny because the district wraps all the way around it, including Chestnut Street, but the Marshall Park property is not in the district. Secondly, this hasn't been verified yet, but assuming that that's the case, it's expected that there is not a stub in the ground on the main line on 2A to connect into sewer. So if that's the case, that's an additional expense that would have to be borne by whoever's going to pay for a connection to Glen Park. Lastly, you have an ongoing cost on a monthly basis because you're connected to the sewer. And I didn't get a clear understanding of what fees would be charged. In most cases, including for the septic system, town fees are waived for a town project, but I'm not sure. I can't speak for the sewer commission on that. So I think there's enough, from my perspective, there's enough cons to bringing a sewer line in from 2A to pursue the septic system, which looks like can be paid in full by this grant and give us some permanent toilet facilities on the property. I think it would go a long way in allowing us to hold programming at Marshall Park, especially if it was something that could be, the outfield of the 90-foot diamond could be used for the program, then the toilets would be right there and accessible. Just to take it one step further, right now it's on an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper scribbled with a pencil. But my vision for that upper area where the toilets would be is, and again, we've got some wiggle room as to where the toilets and septic system goes, is that within that plateau and all the way out to Chestnut Street, on the Chestnut Street end of it, we have parking as much as we could fit in there with access off of Chestnut Street. Then I'm not sure in what order they go going back towards 2A on that plateau, but we have a pavilion, an area for shuffleboard, horseshoes, whatever else we think we want to put in there, the bathrooms, and probably then the septic system. That's my vision. Just a couple other comments with the septic system itself. I've also had a conversation with the conservation agent, and he took a look very quickly at the maps that he has available of that area, and he didn't see any major obstacles in getting a replacement system in there, even if we had to go for a couple of waivers due to proximity to wetlands or ledge or whatever. Between the Board of Health and Conscom, it sounds like that process would not be real difficult. I guess I'll stop talking for a minute and see if you guys want to.
So
Add.
do you have anything first before I go in?
I mean, it sounds like free money available. I'm just, before we, we're working on a master plan for the park, and I don't want to lose the opportunity if this, if there is free money, and I'm not totally opposed to putting permanent bathrooms there at Marshall. I think that certainly will add some value. We need to make sure that we have folks that are able to maintain those on a regular basis and kind of figure out that workload and where does that fall. Make sure that's squared away. I guess my only hesitation would be, just in the grand scheme of looking at a master plan, if that's the spot where they should go. And I recognize something used to be there, and so it's maybe easy, but it's also not a central location within the park. So I don't know, but I certainly understand there's some money available that we could potentially take advantage of in short order and take care of something outside of a master plan.
So Dave, we've talked about this before, even in the past week. My concern is sort of echoes what Chris just said, is that we're bringing somebody in to do a master plan, and I don't want to be doing work in an area that they could come back and say, this area would be better suited for this, because maybe we shift the layout of our fields, which I honestly think that's a very strong possibility, that the recommendation could be to shift. If we keep baseball fields there, it might be to shift where they are located in order to give us some more rectangular space. And I would just hate to see us put something in and then have it hinder us. So I know you said that the chair of the Board of Health was thinking that he'd like to see something done by the end of the year. Is there a tight time frame on that? Like, is that the schedule they have to stick to? Or is it something that's, you know, if we explain to them what we have going on, that they wouldn't, because I don't want to lose the money either. So I wouldn't want to see them rescind this idea, but is it something that we could push out, but saying to them, but this is why we want to push it out, because we want to make sure that it fits in with the plan that they're coming up with for this park?
Honestly, the issue with the time frame is that there's concern going forward into next year that there's going to be a substantial change in the membership of the Board of Health. And it's not entirely clear as to whether that new configuration would be on board with releasing this money for this purpose. So yes, we could very possibly lose the money, lose access to the money.
Can we do back work to secure the funds in the project? Like, can that be a voted on measure that those funds are secured for this project, barring where we put it? Like, is that something that the
Well, here's the
current
big
group
issue.
could take care of with us?
What? Yeah, Chris, what's being proposed now can only go within a certain distance of the existing system because it's being processed as a repair. If you guys want to move it
get
to
it.
a different section
Yeah.
of the park, you're going to have a fully compliant Title V system. Which I don't know where, I'm sure there's someplace in that park you can get what you need for a completely compliant system. But that's one of the caveats of the fact that that system is still there in the ground. The demolition of that building, I unfortunately got involved in that too late in the project to try to stop it. So I never did even try to, but I already had this thought process in my head when that building was taken down. And if I had been earlier in that process, I would have fought really hard for that building to stay there. Because that would have been another piece of the kind of puzzle that you can repair things a lot easier that exist than replace what used to be there. But as I say, the septic system is there. It is in the ground. There's record of it. There's an actual permit from, I don't even remember what year, but it goes back way, way back. But based on that and the Title V regs, then this can be deemed a repair. And then through engineering, we just need to come up with a system that the Board of Health is willing to allow. The other thing is that, and I haven't got a clear answer yet, is that at least the septic system itself could be put in the ground this fall, and we don't have to complete the actual bathroom construction right away. I'm trying to get an answer on what that time frame could potentially be. The permit, once it's signed off on the design, is good for 3 years. But once you put the system in the ground, I haven't got a clear answer as to how long it can sit before it's actually activated and hooked up to something. It's not uncommon for septic systems to be put in the ground on properties where houses are either going to be torn down and rebuilt or new construction. And for one reason or another, the construction of the new building gets delayed a year or two. But that's the best answer I could get so far. I'm looking for a definitive, what is the window?
Dave, so I know it was up on the plateau. How close was the septic to, the bathhouse?
To the building itself. I believe if you were walking up the stone steps or the concrete steps to the bathhouse, I
Yep.
believe they were to the left of the bathhouse.
Hold on a second. I'm looking at a map.
And just beyond that, you've got a really nice pine grove in there, which could be developed again as an additional picnic area or whatever.
So you think it was behind it?
Honestly, I think it was off that back corner towards, well, kind of towards 2A. Off the left back corner.
And then back towards St. Boniface. And
Okay. So,
Yeah.
hmm,
the fact that it's tied to repair adds an interesting dilemma. I just worry, like I'm.
Yeah.
Again, that's my only concern is it's not a central spot in the park. But so is and I don't know what I don't know where in the park it would go that it would make sense for it to be centralized. I guess I only look at it from the standpoint like if we talked about you know a parks building, you know, that you had mentioned, Dave, like I would envision this just being a part of that building.
Yeah, but
You know.
part of the problem is that I really believe that, and the Board of Health in their discussions about portable toilets and stuff said that, you know, another caveat to this is that moving forward with the permanent toilets at Marshall will eliminate a lot of the compliance issues with that park. Just as one more thing that, you know, is a plus for getting them in now and not waiting 2 to 3 years to get them there.
Dave, can I screen share for a second? You all right with that?
You want to screen share? Sure, go ahead. You got an image of the park or? Yeah. that's what
Is
I
it up?
think.
I have no idea what's on the screen.
It's a map.
Just
Okay,
the
so you see the map?
GSI.
Do you
Yep,
see
just the
the,
map.
can you see my cursor?
Yep.
All right, so this is where the bathhouse was, correct?
Yeah, that white splotch just to the right of your cursor looks like the steps going up.
Yep. Yep, so I believe that's where the bathhouse was. This is just for reference, this is the 2015 statewide aerial map. So it's when the bathhouse was still there. It's not there anymore.
I think it's in the shadows right there, Karen, where you had the cursor right
Oh,
there.
yeah, no, I can see it. I can
Yep.
see it here. I guess what I'm saying is I don't want anybody who decides to watch this meeting later to think that the bathhouse is still there. This is a 2015 area
Yep.
when it was still there. So that's the bathhouse. Do you remember, and I don't off the top of my head, and I'm trying to think if I have the map here that I could grab quick, and I don't know where it is. When we looked at doing parking there, because this is the area that was gonna have parking, was that parking gonna connect into the main? I thought that was gonna connect into the main area.
I honestly do not remember. I have a copy of that plan somewhere back at the house, but I don't remember.
So I'm gonna stop screen sharing now that we've all seen where this is. Can we put in a septic tank with the Board of Health in that similar area and connect, like, could we
We can
put
connect to it.
tank
over
it, and then make a decision, you know, once we see what a master plan looks like? Because honestly, the 20 or 30 feet could make a difference in the location of the bathhouse on the way a field could be used. So could we put in the septic tank and hold off on deciding where the actual bathhouse would go until the plan is done, so that if the master plan comes back and they have an idea for that location? Or would the bathhouse have to go back on the exact same location that it was in for those funds to cover it?
I I believe the building could be located anywhere within proximity of where the septic system ends up. And including the septic system, it does not, to my understanding, have to land on exactly the same footprint that the old system did. It's usually within proximity to it, but the engineers might find better soil 40 feet north or south of that spot and say, this is where we think it should go.
Would the Board of Health, if consider funding a sewer connection? If
No,
no, okay,
absolutely not.
okay,
They went through that process way back when they re-advertised the loan program. The money, they will not release the money, a penny of that money for sewer connections of any kind, even engineering.
that's fine. So I guess I'd want somebody with a more trained eye than I have. You know, obviously knowing, hearing what some of the concerns were. I would want somebody with a more well-trained eye and somebody that has, and get a copy of that parking map. My gut tells me that parking might be very similar to what it was in that plan that we have somewhere. You know, maybe somebody can help look at it so we don't lose these funds of where a septic system could be installed that's sort of off the beaten path in an area that maybe we wouldn't need to utilize for, you know, for any field space or, you know, I'm just trying to figure out a way where we could utilize those funds, because I think it's a very generous offer. I don't want to downplay it by any means. I'm just concerned that if we it's almost like putting the cart before the horse, that we're going to make a decision on putting in a new facility at a specific location and then not have a full understanding of what the park needs space-wise in order to execute whatever this master plan is.
You know, putting a restroom in a location, it's not, I mean, obviously we'd have to take care of handicap accessibility and so forth to get up there, but we're not putting it necessarily in a spot that would be the most easy thing to do. We're putting it on top of a hill.
If Karen, do you still have that map
Yep,
available on your computer? Could you
Yep.
put that back up for a second, please?
I can. Give me 1 second to figure out what I'm doing.
I'm of the same inclination, though. I
Really,
don't want to
there-
lose
there's-
the funds that are there.
Oh, yeah, lost my camera, lost the camera. But I do actually have a scribbled drawing here on paper.
Okay,
Okay, so one of the things that's included on my drawing is a wheelchair accessible path. Basically up from the general area where the skate park ramps used to be. Somewhere close to the corner of the fence of the field, somewhere in that vicinity there. And it climbs that contour up to the bathroom level over, that's got to be 100 feet, if not more. So, I mean, I think you can get right up through there.
so
You
this
could
is
get
where the
pitch.
skate park used to be.
Right, okay,
And
see
this
that
is where-
dark shadow? No, go back to the one closer to where the skate park was.
Here,
No, the back corner of the field.
here,
Yeah, right there. Okay, just to the left of that is where I envision the path starting, or maybe back a little closer to the skate park. And then it just rides the incline up to the elevation of the bathrooms. So I'm assuming that gives you your ADA compliance from there. From the other side, if you do indeed put parking and a pavilion on the other side, it'll be accessible from Route 2A, and you would include probably, you should be able to include
Chestnut.
access from Chestnut, I'm sorry, and include tapered access from the ball field level up on that end also. I
Could
think,
a bathroom go more, like, and this is, again, just the untrained eye looking at this. I, for some reason, keep envisioning parking that would go somewhere in here to connect into this park, this lot. I think it actually, me personally think, I almost think it has to be done to start alleviating some of that traffic on Chestnut Street and the bad parking, because people aren't driving around to go in the main lot. So I think if we could somehow figure out how to connect it in there. So if you, in looking at it and thinking, by the way, I have my finger on the screen, like drawing a picture, thinking you guys can see me and you can't.
I pointed once to see. I was pointing at the dark tree that Dave was talking about.
If
Not sure.
if a park, it's, narrow in here, but if parking came in here or some sort of access road came in here and came up this way, in this tree section, Dave, could a bathroom go there? Because here's the reality, it's narrow in here. We're not going to be able to, make it too much wider, I don't think, and still have an access road that comes through there. Could it be right off the edge of some sort of access road? So if they put in a septic, say in this area, and then once the design phase gets done, if the bathroom went over here, would that be an option versus where it had been previously?
I believe so. Like I said, I think the key to this whole project, as proposed by the Board of Health, is the fact that you can't move the septic system too far from where it presently exists.
Yeah,
Where you locate bathroom, it'd be expensive, but potentially you could put them on the other side of the park and pump to them. Or pump from them
Yeah,
to the
yeah.
septic system. You wouldn't want to do
You-
that, but
No.
That's a lower grade where you're pointing though, Karen, too. I don't know if that would play
Here.
a factor. That's lower than that hill where the
Yeah,
septic is. The septic's up a hill.
yeah, and only an engineer can tell us, what makes the most sense.
Yep.
By the way, I do have a ballpark number on the engineering design, and assuming that it has to go through the conservation process, and that would be about $8,500 to $9,000. So based on that ballpark estimate, the thought is that Parks would go to the Board of Health and request or state that they have this ballpark estimate and request up to $9,000 be released from the account for engineering and design. That also allows us to not have to go out to bid.
Okay, so I think, let me stop sharing this. I think we should see how many puzzle pieces we can fit into this. I think we need to continue having through Dave, since he's the best contact, is to keep the dialogue going with the Board of Health.
Yep.
I think we should try to get our hands on the old original parking plan that was going to go in over there and take a look at it to see what those options were. Because I think if it hadn't been for the issue with the property boundary, we wouldn't have stopped that project. So it would be interesting to see how that was going to go in. And that was obviously designed and engineeed by somebody. And
I'd like to see that. That'd be cool.
I'm also curious to see how long it's going to take to get the contractor, or whatever you want to call them, for the master plan lined up and start working. Because my gut says that anybody that we bring in is probably going to have done this long enough to know that if they looked at an overview of Marshall, just a general overview, they may be able to give us an idea, say, yeah, that actually looks like it might be the best spot in the park to put this bathroom, or maybe it needs to be shifted further or closer to the Mass Ave side, near where the old skate park was. But still utilize the septic where it was so that we can utilize those Board of Health funds. But know
Honestly,
that we're
Karen,
on a short timeline.
yeah, honestly, the parks building, which I don't think will, I don't know for sure, but I don't think that'll happen in the actual master plan. But I think we should have an idea as to where a building might go for the future, because I think that's going to be needed at some point in the future. My thought, again, in my head, is that that building goes where the old skate park ramps are. And if there is a requirement for a bathroom in that building, then it's a simple pump up to the system.
Right.
If it ends up, in the present spot, and the bathrooms are right nearby also. So I'm just throwing that out to you as another thing that seems to fit. Now, I'm not so sure we want drive-through access to the park. I was never a champion of that parking plan. And that's why I can't give you specifics of it, because I opened it up one day and looked at it and said, no, I don't like this. The other area that I think we need to really concentrate on available parking, and it will be affected greatly by what we decide to do with the 90-foot diamond, is the parking behind the backstop of the 90-foot diamond on Chestnut Street. With some engineering, there's no reason in the world why you can't have pull-in parking right there off of, to pull off at Chestnut Street grade, or take up the entire area where the flagpole is and convert that to parking. So, there are other opportunities for parking. And I, for one, am not a fan of a drive-through access through the park.
And that's fine. I mean, everybody's going to have their own opinions on it.
Yep.
I'd take a look at the plans. I'd love to see them. I think I understand your concerns, Dave, and I like, if that was the best option for parking, I'd want to see some sort of gate that would preclude, drive-through parking 24/7.
Right.
Because I think the major concern, I'm assuming, Dave, is it's now a cut-through road, to Mass Ave or to Chestnut or what have you, and we're not trying to establish a cut-through road. So similar to like the gate at TCP or whatnot, that all right, there's a game going on, let's get everybody access to whatever parking is there, and then we lock a cut-through gate off hours or something like that.
Right.
If that was the best solution for parking or what have you, but yeah, I wouldn't want to see permanent.
What I don't
access
like
through the whole
about
park.
parking, what I don't like about parking right now is we're one way in and we're one way out. And that concerns me, because
Yeah.
like the public safety building, one way in and one way out, we have an accident at the intersection. And now you're gonna have to bring, and we have an emergency on the field at the same time. So now you can't get in through that intersection or the main entrance. So then they come around the back, which is fine. And they'd be able to get to wherever the person was that was having an emergency, but it's not a direct route. They wouldn't be able to necessarily bring their equipment all the way down there. So I don't know. We have been dealing with, I do think that we can fix parking on Chestnut Street. And I do think you're right, Dave, that if the park configuration stays similar, there may be able to be some parking behind that backstop. That said, I don't know if we'd be able to put in enough, because we've all been down there. The public safety did a presentation 6 years ago or so, where they literally during a Phillies game put their cameras on and went down Chestnut Street and made a recording so we could see. I'm not sure we'd be able to absorb those cars in a parking there. And I feel like people, even though we've told the Phillies and whatnot that they need to be parking over at the main lot, I don't think they do it because they don't want to drive around. And the other thing is people that are not from town don't know to go around, because when they put in the address for that 90-foot diamond, I know they're putting an address in on Chestnut Street. They're not putting the Mass Ave entrance in. So, I'm just, in my head, I am looking for two ways of egress, and I'm looking for, a way to start getting people to easily go over to the main lot, because if it's not easy, nobody does it. But, somebody could come up with a design that just looks amazing and might have one way in and one way out that I'd be like, wow, that's awesome. Like, let's do it.
Yeah, and then if we get that design, then the next piece to that on the Chestnut Street side problem is enforcement. We talk a great game, but no matter what we've ever done there, no parking signs, no this, no that.
It's always,
The laws have not been enforced.
right. And honestly, I feel like it doesn't, I don't know. I feel like when you're going down that way, if you don't know the area and you don't know how to get over to the main lot, and there's not a single parking spot left, that even if there was 1,000 no parking signs, people are still gonna park there. And I don't know, I could be wrong on that, but I see it when we go to the beach not the town beach, but just other beaches all the time. People are always in no parking because they can't find a spot because it's easy. I don't know.
It's a 1-lane road tonight during the baseball game. I drove down Chestnut Street.
It's 1 lane tonight.
Yeah, because his car is all the way down Chestnut again.
And that's all great. And we've had these conversations, and, I don't know how wide it is right now, but I can tell you that if there is a fire on that road, that those cars can't get out of there fast enough. Because I don't know if they would necessarily be able to get a truck down there. And that would be shameful. So
Depending on how they did a little better tonight, pulling off the side as best they could.
So
But
people are
depend-
gonna send me pictures of their front yard because
Yeah.
people are parking literally, I was in Alaska a few years ago, and while I was getting ready to go on an excursion, I made the mistake of checking town email, and there was an email from somebody with a picture, and somebody literally pulled up on their front lawn. Like it was an open field for parking. I'm like, the house is right there, like, so, you just can't win with some people. I don't know.
So I think sounds like the plan, it would be continue the discussion, try and move this forward. Try and expedite at the same time the start of a master plan sort of scenario, maybe with some additional guidance to Julie that we're thinking of, like, can she include that in her sort of initial write-up?
Include what? That we need.
The septic, sort of, that there may be a targeted area for a septic? And if that's,
Yeah, I think that's getting
feasible?
too much into the weeds for the RFQ. I really.
Yeah, and I think it's the
I'm
same
not-
thing with,
I'm not so sure. Go ahead.
no, go ahead, Dave.
No, I'm just saying, I think we're getting too much into the weeds. We're looking for the expertise. We're not looking to tell them in the RFQ what we want or what we think we need or what's there.
Yeah.
well, we can
maybe
only
what-
take advantage of this money if we're putting the septic where we need to put the septic.
Yep.
That's what I'm saying. Like, that's something that seems a little more pertinent than, like, we want a basketball court, or we want a,
Right, but
whatnot. But we can only take advantage of this money if the master plan comes back and says, so I guess we have to decide, like, do we, that's the catch, right? That's what I was talking about, where we're rushing to maybe take advantage of this money and do the septic there when the master plan might not tell us that that's the best spot for a bathroom. But if we go ahead and do this and take advantage of the money, then we don't have a choice. And that's where the bathroom's going to be.
So look at it like we're looking at the skate park, right? So we know that we've said to the skate park that, we'd welcome them into Marshall Park. We have a pretty good idea at this point of the area that they're looking at. So when the master plan folks come on board, we as a commission would be saying to them, this is what we have there, you can physically see, but we don't need a skate park design, but we do have a group of people looking to put in a skate park using this piece of property. And we also have the Board of Health willing to help us put in a septic system and do the engineering of that, so we can put a permanent bathroom, but these are the stipulations from them. And one of them is that it would have to go in the general area of where the last one was. I think if we told them that, after the fact, I think
Just usually we're operating under a very tight timeline.
we are, there's no doubt. And
So that's the only indication why I say I feel like it's something that just, let's just
I'm
put
not
it
sure
right
that-
out there kind of deal.
I don't know if
I
they
don't know.
do anything anyway with it, Chris, even if they
Okay.
had that information early.
Okay.
You know, because I think they still need to talk to us and say, well, you know, what are your grand ideas? What are you guys thinking?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Realistically, think about this. We haven't even created the RFQ yet. So we're 2 months from going out to bid. And then we're 60 days.
I'm gonna
No,
try to
it's-
set up. I'm gonna try to
No.
speed up, Dave.
I'll put a ice cream at Conrad's on that one.
Cherry Hill, can you do Cherry
Cherry
Hill?
Hill, I knew you were gonna say that. That's
Um,
fine. But the timeframes you're talking
Meeting's being
about to
recorded.
get to the point that
Yep.
you want to make a decision is sometime in December.
Yeah, I'm just thinking that they want the septic in the ground, you know, this fall, where that's the
I mean,
timeline.
my feeling is it's free money. You put the septic in the ground and, you know, work around it as best you can. If you can't work with it, put one toilet there and then build into the master plan another $75,000 to put in a large restroom facility with a fully fully compliant Title V system. Or spend that kind of money and come in from 2A with a sewer line. But again, you're gonna pay for the stub, you're gonna pay for the line, and you're gonna have a monthly bill.
Okay. So,
And as I said before, I personally, as a commissioner, really do not want to see that entire plateau tied up for parking and drive-through road. That's just my position on that. I think there's, as I laid out before, I think there's a lot better uses for that area with easy access from Chestnut Street, and it overlooks whatever kind of main fields we end up with the 90-foot diamond. The 90-foot diamond actually causes us a lot of headaches, as you all know. If we did pull the trigger on that and make it go away, then the balls flying and hitting cars on Chestnut Street goes away. A lot of the parking issues could go away because you could take 40 or 50 feet in off of Chestnut Street and have a full parking lot on that end. It would disrupt the track, but you could put a substantial parking lot between Chestnut Street and whatever fields you end up with there. Anyway, I'm just throwing a whole bunch of stuff out there as, you know, hypotheticals, but there's a lot that can be done.
yeah. All right, so when do they meet again, Dave?
Presently, my understanding is they expect it will be the third Monday of August. They meet once a month during the summer.
Can you remind me of that meeting if you think of it? I'm
Yes,
gonna
I
put
will.
it on my agenda, but I'm afraid I will
Yeah,
forget.
send us an email, Dave.
Is it via Zoom or are they in person?
In person,
Okay,
fully in person.
all right. I'd be interested in going. I'd be interested to hear what I would just be interested to see what their response was. I mean, I'm assuming they know that we're in the process of getting a master plan going.
Yeah, they do. I think, as I said, I think the only concern is that the chair is seriously concerned that if it gets stretched out too far and there is a substantial change in the configuration of the board and the Board of Health, that this offer may not be there next year.
Yep, no, I get it. I get it. I mean, yeah. How many do they
And
have?
it's truly not to pressure us into moving forward. I think it's a good faith effort to use the money in a way that it benefits as many townspeople as possible. And accomplishes something that's dearly needed.
Yeah, no, I agree. I guess I'm just hesitant when I look at the field layouts over there. And I'm going to use the town of Turner Falls as an example because that was recently brought to my attention. Turner Falls has a park called Unity Park. And in that park, there's a skate park, there's a splash pad, there's rectangular fields, and there is baseball diamonds.
Beautiful park.
It is, but it's not huge. We run circles size-wise. Marshall Park runs circles around it. It's not a gigantic park. But when I look at those field layouts and I look at how they did it in order to give them some of the rectangular space, I just don't want to take away our ability to do something similar if a designer, whoever designs parks, I'm assuming our master plan people, have an idea that would allow us to do something like that. But then we couldn't put in, maybe it goes close enough to that plateau that now we can't safely get a compliant ramp to go up to a bath facility that we put over there. And I would hate to be, cutting off my nose to spite my face in saying, let's do this because the money's available. But now we've tied our hands on something else and we wouldn't be able to do that something else.
And the money, like I said, has been sitting there for a long time. The only compelling issue is the possibility of what will the position of the Board of Health be a year from now. Will possibly a different set of people feel differently. And I will have those conversations, like we've hung our hat on previous votes. Once we make a pitch for the money and the Board of Health votes to appropriate it, that may take care of the issue for long enough for us to be able to do what we've been talking about here for the last half hour.
Yeah.
I really, I don't know. My gut tells me we need to get the septic system in the ground where the toilets go is flexible. But,
Okay.
Let's move forward from there.
All right, let's continue this discussion because I think we just threw all of this at Chris. He may have some other thoughts between now and our next meeting too.
Yeah, I'll tell you, look at the parking, the old parking map and so forth. Again, that was my only concern. I mean, I appreciate the free money. And certainly would be an advocate for taking advantage of it. I think I just want to make sure we're not handicapping ourselves by putting it there when it's not the best use of that particular space.
Right. And I'm not sure, but I think most of that plateau is ledge.
It could be. I know nothing about. I've never looked at the land map of that.
Most of Lunenburg is ledge.
especially that side of town.
Yeah. Okay.
The other thing being is that if there's going to be equipment over there to do test holes for the skate park, then and I haven't had a chance to brush this by Rob or town manager. This has all been between the three departments that I've mentioned during our discussions. Although town manager is very much aware of what's going on, and she has had conversation with the Board of Health, so it's not like she doesn't know this is going on. I just haven't had a one-on-one conversation with her about it. But it would make sense if we're going to put if equipment's going to be over there to do test holes for the skate park, then we do test holes for the
I don't know
potential.
if it's the same. I don't know if it's the same sort of test holes. I don't know.
Yeah, it is. Because they did it over in front of Passios. They brought a backhoe in there and dug holes.
Yeah, okay. All right, let's figure it all out. We'll definitely get there. All right, so the next item on our agenda is also, Dave, let me get this opened up. This is considering changing our policy for dogs at our parks. Currently, we are no dogs on parks properties. We have had some folks request to be able to bring their dogs to games and things like that, walking the track. So let me pull up. I'm just opening up the document that you had sent over, Dave.
I'd just like to state for the record that this policy was fashioned heavily off of the DCR dog policies for state properties and information from a couple of other municipal policies.
Yep. No, I figured that you had, which is fine.
Yep.
Why reinvent the wheel if you don't have to?
Exactly.
All right, so the Lunenburg Park Commission welcomes dogs in all parks and forests under the care and custody of the commission. We ask all dog owners and their dogs to be respectful of other park users and neighbors. To this end, Lunenburg Park Commission has adopted the following policies. Please review the list below for specific locations covered under this policy and restrictions where dogs are not allowed for safety, public health, habitat concerns, or deed restrictions. Join us in the stewardship of our parks by being a responsible dog owner and park partner. All right.
Karen,
so-
can you share that? Can you
Yes,
screen share that?
yes. Give
I have a
me.
copy in front of me, but it would be nice for the public to be able to see it in the recording.
Did that come up?
Yep.
Oops. All right. So list of properties covered by this policy: Fitzgerald, Marshall, McNally, Northfield Park, which is the formerly known as the Saliva Park,
Saliva property.
Veterans Park, Wallace Park, Whalum Lake Beach. That would remain as dogs not allowed. Restricted prohibited areas. All sections of parks fenced or not maintained for athletic use, to include all ball field and courts. Marshall Park track during scheduled games, playgrounds, restroom facilities, all swimming and beach areas, and any and all open areas in public buildings where park program is taking place. So, okay.
Again, this is only one set of eyes looking at this information. So if
Yep.
you put as many holes in it as you'd like, this is a draft.
Okay, I'm just wondering if there's maybe a way to fine tune it a little bit to. Any and all open areas in public buildings where park programming is taking place, because what if we have, what if somebody rents space from us for another reason and it's not parks programming, but it's on parks property? Would that be covered by that? Any and all open areas in public buildings?
there-
It's either that or reverts back to the policy for that space. Do you
All right.
agree with that, Chris?
Yeah, any, public areas and public buildings where parks programming is taking place. So it's not a parks program when someone rents Marshall Park. They still can't have a dog on a ball field.
Right, that's true.
Right, I mean, so, courts and ball fields where most likely things would be rented. It would still be.
The only thing that I am missing there that comes to mind right now that I hadn't even thought of is as we develop picnic areas, how do we want to deal with those? Should we deal with that down the road and adjust this if we feel we need to? I don't know. I think it's going to be a little difficult to control picnic areas, especially if we put one out in that grove at potentially the end of the trail close to Marshall Pond. People are going to want to walk out there with their dogs and have a picnic and still be able to
I think
have.
we need to work, just the leash policy would take care of that, I think, though, Dave.
Yeah,
If I think we may want to, the leash policy we may want to incorporate the, I don't know, length of leash kind of deal. They got those those leashes with the run out of them, and the dog can go out 20 feet. I mean, I think we're going to want, if we want dogs on leash, we're going to want them on a, 6-foot leash or something.
No retractable leash.
No retractable leashes kind of deal. Like we
Yeah.
want them on a short.
in
short
general,
leash.
in general, that number, looking at other policies, was 10 feet.
Okay.
And that keeps it within reason. I think even in around a picnic table area and so forth.
Mhm.
I'd like to give people the benefit of the doubt, and the fact that they could be if there's a couple of picnic tables there and someone's sitting there with their dog, that they're not going to let their dog walk under the other picnic table while folks are eating. We can, if it becomes an issue, we can always tackle that later.
Yep.
But let's give people the benefit of the doubt for the time being.
All right, service animals, service and medical support animals when acting within their service capacity are welcome at parks properties, even those where pets are otherwise prohibited. Rules and etiquette to ensure an enjoyable parks experience for all visitors. The Park Commission requests that all dog owners observe the following rules and etiquette while recreating with dogs on park properties where dogs are allowed. Make sure your dog is wearing a collar with current tags for license and rabies vaccine. Bring no more than 4 dogs per person at one time. Always clean up after your dogs and carry out waste and dispose of it in an appropriate receptacle off-site. Do not leave it on the ground. Dogs must be on leash in all parking areas. Make sure that dogs do not damage park facilities and lands. Unless invited, do not allow your dog, even if friendly, to approach other dogs or people who may not desire such contact. Keep dogs under effective control at all times and make sure they do not engage in aggressive behavior. In on-leash areas, dogs must be tethered individually on a leash of no more than 10 feet in length. Visitors who do not abide by these rules may be subject to eviction from the park and/or receive a fine. Do we
Okay,
have-
I left that or receive a fine on there. Do we want to go that far in this wording, or, who's going to enforce it?
I
what's
wrote
the
that down.
fine
I'm like,
gonna be?
can we find people? Is that within our purview?
Oh, that's one of the things that, I'm going to propose once we get done reviewing this and critiquing it, that we table it till the next meeting. And either Karen or I will forward it to, what do you think, town manager or directly to town council?
Either one. We can,
You seem to have the better connection, Karen.
I'd say either one.
Just
I
to
mean,
get a quick review of it.
Yeah, no, I think it going to Adam Costa might be the best. We can double do it and just send it to both of them at the same time.
Yeah, okay.
So that would be fine with me.
Under the rules and etiquette, I think the first sentence, excuse me, it's a com. The Parks Committee, we're not requesting that dog owners observe and follow the rules. I think we're requiring people to follow and observe the rules.
Yeah,
Yeah, you're correct. Yep. Have you got edit capability, Karen, or should I just,
I
I don't
don't.
have,
I
it.
don't.
I don't have it open as a document at this point. I'll just, if I can find my pen, I will adjust that.
Let's do a spell check on it, Dave. At the end, I know the programming up in the previous section is missing an M. Just a spell check through it, kind of deal. Just a couple.
I have no idea what's on the screen right now. Hopefully it's not on my.
It's the
No,
dog policy.
It's still the policy. The only other thing I had was that between the service paragraph and everything else on here, we're talking about dogs where the service talks about pets. Are we okay with that? Because service animals aren't necessarily dogs.
Give me one, freeze for 1 second. I'm gonna run to my printer and grab what I just printed. Because it's easier for me to make edits while I'm doing this, and then I can send them to you, Dave. Give me 1 second.
Okay.
I think the other one too, Dave, looking at the first bullet there under the rules and etiquette, making sure your dog is wearing a collar. I think we should say leash there as well. So they're wearing a leash and collar with their tags, because we have a non-leashed section. I know it's covered in a separate bullet point down the line, but I think the more we emphasize wearing a leash, the better off we
Yeah.
are.
Chris, what section's that under again?
That's right. That's the first bullet under rules and etiquette. Just says make sure your dog is wearing a collar with current tags for license and rabies vaccine. Just maybe say something. Make sure your dog is on leash and wearing a collar with current tags for license and rabies vaccine.
Okay, yep.
Something like
Right.
that. The more we emphasize being leashed, the better off we are.
All right, what have we made for changes?
I know it's just a spell under the last bullet on the restricted prohibited areas. Programming needs a second M. That's probably just a spelling thing, just a spell check. I'm sure if Dave was in the Google Doc and did a spell check, I'm sure that would fix itself. The Parks Commission requires instead of requests under the rules and etiquette.
Okay.
And then the first bullet, I would just make mention that they should be on a leash as well. So make sure your dog is leashed and wearing a collar.
Yeah,
current
is on
tags.
leash and wearing a collar.
And then there is that separate bullet with the 10-foot leash anyway, which is good. Again, it just further emphasizes the fact that we want dogs leashed in most of our park areas.
So here's the problem with that, changing that first bullet to make sure your dog is on leash and wearing a collar, is that we are not going to require, I think what I'm reading is we would allow off leash at Northfield Park.
Which has a separate section down below
Okay,
to highlight the off leash
okay.
areas.
Yep.
And we
okay.
could say under rules and etiquette unless at Northfield Park, but I think I think we overcomplicate it.
Well,
Yeah,
I mean, technically they have to be on leash anyway to get out of the vehicle at Northfield Park because that is a parking lot.
Right.
So, I mean, every dog that comes in should be starting on a leash regardless, because they have to pull into the parking area at Northfield. Not a big parking area, but it's still a parking area.
Does the Conservation Commission have a dog, like an official dog policy anywhere?
I don't know. I think they just, I don't know. I don't think so. I think they allow dogs on there.
They do. Yeah, I just was curious if they had a written policy. I'm happy to reach out to somebody and ask them. That's fine. I'll reach out, Karen.
I can text them right now.
Oh, well then never mind. Go ahead. Showing off.
All right.
Like I said, she's got the connection.
She's flexing, dude.
Yeah. I don't think my children would think I was very funny right now. Okay. So bring no more than 4 dogs per person at one time. No problems there. Always clean up after your dog and carry out waste and dispose of it in an appropriate receptacle off-site. Do not leave it on the ground. Dogs must be on leash in all parking areas. Make sure that dogs do not damage parks, facilities, and lands.
Do we want to say on the waste disposal? Do we want to say do not leave it at the park?
On the ground or at the park?
Just playing the I feel like this is the swim discussion at the beach and sports in the water and so forth. But should we just say do not leave it at the park?
Because they'll hang it in a trick.
I was kind of.
I'm playing the wise guy. The wise guy comments. Not on the ground. It's on a bench.
Right.
It's on a whatever.
Do not
I was kind of hoping that on site would suffice, but I get your.
Yeah, on that's
I
the
mean,
offsite
offsite.
deal. Yes, yeah. And quite honestly, we can take off that sentence entirely because you're right, Dave. It does, please dispose of it offsite does alleviate that issue. And I think we can take off, don't leave it on the ground. It's
Yep.
it's not necessary because we're asking people to actually remove it entirely from the park's land.
Yep,
Yeah, it was a little bit redundant, but I think it pushed the point a little bit stronger.
Yeah.
do you want to leave it or take it off? Does anybody have a strong feeling one way or another?
I personally,
The
Left it
overemphasis
on.
is fine. Yeah, don't leave it at the, do not leave it at the park.
How about do not leave it on the ground or within the park?
Sure.
Because I'm really afraid that people are gonna look at, do not leave it on the ground, and now we're gonna tie it on a tree.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Just do not leave it at the park at all.
Yep.
Like if we just say don't leave it at the park.
Okay, dogs must be on leash in all parking areas. Make sure that dogs do not damage parks, facilities, and lands. Unless invited, do not allow your dog, even if friendly, to approach other dogs or people who may not desire such contacts. Keep dogs under effective control at all times and make sure they do not engage in aggressive behavior. In on-leash areas, dogs must be tethered individually on a leash of no more than 10 feet in length. And visitors who do not abide by these rules may be subject to eviction from the park and or receive a fine. We're gonna check if we even have that authority, but I think it's a good attempt at giving us.
I'm picturing Dave over there with a book.
no, I'll
Here's
have,
your ticket.
when we install all the cameras, I'll send them to them in the mail from.
There
the
you
handbook.
go.
There you go, there you go.
I have a question on the dogs must be tethered individually. So I'm picturing folks with multiple dogs and they have like a split harness, kind of like so a leash with two
Yep.
tethered ends. Does that include? Is that included? Is that considered tethered individually,
No,
or are we looking for folks to have
they
two
should be on their own
individual
leash.
leashes? Okay.
They should be on their own leash.
Okay.
That what your interpretation of that was too, Dave?
Yes,
Yep. Yeah, their own leash, so that if there's an issue with one dog, they've got that dog under their immediate control versus having to wrangle with a
A second dog. Gotcha. Okay.
second dog and I've actually seen dog walkers who have multiple dogs
Oh,
on.
yeah.
just to note, I took all the references out of this policy, but DCR intermingled into this policy is a process for commercial dog walkers. And they're required to be permitted and licensed and a whole bunch of other regulations, which allows them to bring more than the 4 dogs. I think it's 8 or more.
So now we're going from fining to also permitting people, like, paper.
Well, that's why I took it
If
out.
you can get your clipboard and get it ready, you're gonna need it.
We're gonna need that parks building. They have to check in at the parks building.
They get a
in the
fire
park
department
with their-
uniform.
with
You
their
think
8
it'll pass for a law enforcement uniform?
Might. Never know. Excuse me. All right, so off-leash areas would be Northfield Park only. In designated off-leash areas, dogs must be under control either through voice control or electronic training collar. This means that your dog is within sight at all times, comes immediately when called, stays at your command, does not charge or chase people, dogs, horses, or wildlife, is leashed when entering or exiting an off-leash area. The owner should have 1 leash in hand for each dog. Visitors who do not abide from these rules, we're finding them again here. So my only question on does not charge or chase people, dogs, horses, or wildlife. I'm wondering if we have somebody that brings their turkeys to Hannaford. I'm not sure people
that.
would necessarily call that wildlife. I'm wondering if we should just put something in there about just other domestic animals. Like what if somebody brings their cat or takes their parrot out for a walk? Would wildlife cover that, or do we need to have
I think like they did in the service animal one, put insert pets in there some way.
Does
in
not,
some way.
I mean, just does not chase people or animals or other animals. And we're covered with dogs, horses, wildlife, turkeys, parrots.
What if we did, does not charge or chase people, dogs, or other animals? I think I'd like to keep the word
Dogs
dog
there, yeah.
just to
Because that's
reinforce.
the likelihood.
Mhm.
Yep.
How about, do you want to take it one step further and say domestic or wild? Or not bother?
It doesn't matter. People, dogs, or other,
Animals, domestic or wild?
okay, or other animals, domestic or wild.
Yep.
That works. Okay,
Should we say something in there just to clear? I know we have it up above that in a parking lot, they need to be leashed.
yeah,
But maybe emphasizing that down here so that Northfield Park is an off-leash area excluding the parking lot, or just put a bullet in that says while in the, we have the dog is leashed when entering or exiting an off-leash area. But I would maybe do something, is leashed in the parking lot or any other designated off-leash area.
so
Something like
dogs
this.
must be leashed while in parking area.
Is leashed when in the parking area or when entering or exiting an off-leash area. Because over time we developed that, we may determine that there is but additional leashed areas, so
Yeah.
forth.
So,
That we-
some of the municipalities, just so you know, also, because they had a developed trail system that departed from parking areas, they had a requirement of they must be leashed in the parking area and X number of feet in on the trail. So
Yeah.
that, you get them in away from the parking lot, and like up there on Northfield Road, I mean, that's a residential neighborhood there. So you want to get into the woods before they're off leash. I don't know if we want to go that far with the policy here, but that's how they handled it in other municipalities. But
Yeah.
then, this is the beginning of the unleashed area.
Yeah, I don't have a problem doing that. I think I don't think that's a bad idea, Dave.
Yeah.
That you're, getting, 30 feet in off the park. I don't know what the distance. Did they recommend a distance?
I didn't see any specific ones that I remember. I've glanced over a lot of policies, so I can't quote one. I mean, I've had in my head 50 feet. In some of the bigger areas, I don't see a problem with even 100 feet in. But I mean, pick a number and we could go with it.
Yeah, I just want to limit the visibility from the park. A dog's visibility from the parking lot or from the entrance to seeing things in the parking lot that are shiny and attractive.
Yeah. And especially, I agree, especially coming back towards the parking lot, a
Yep.
dog that's off leash, if they're a little bit marginal on the commands to
Yep.
come or stay or whatever, you're right. They see the parking lot, they may take off like a bullet.
Yeah. I
Put 'em
leash
on
mine coming
leash.
out of Rob's Hill for sure. We come up that last hill, coming to the
Yep.
corner of Sunny Hill there or whatever, and I'm like, I just know, like, he's nope, just let's keep you under control again.
So do we want to say that the unleashed area starts so many feet from?
Yeah, 50 feet in. It's probably pretty
But yeah,
reasonable.
let's try, let's put that in there, see what town council says, and if I have to, I'll go up and nail a sign on a post or something.
Trying to picture. I haven't seen the trailhead entrance to see what 50
So
feet in
the
looks like.
designated off leash area begins 50 feet.
Chris, to your point, should we add the bullet that that they are to remain leashed in the parking lot and up and in 50 feet on the trail?
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
that's
what
I
they
would
did.
add a bullet point that way. We have them, they're leashed when entering and exiting an off leash area. They should have one leash in hand for each dog, and then a separate line that just says they should be leashed.
The editor asks you to slow down.
You're handwriting it too.
I am. No,
Hey, somewhere on Zoom, there is a request to slow down. Have you ever seen those?
I haven't.
Yeah,
But is
there
there,
actually is one.
is there a request for Cherry Hill ice cream delivery? Anybody watching, feel free to drop it off. All right, so how do we wanted to read dog must be,
So it's a separate bullet. So we say this means your dog is leashed in the parking lot and until at least 50 feet
all right, so I now.
into the trail,
So
onto the trail.
I think that we might be trying to put too much into that bullet, and here's why, because I think we should have moved that bullet up to the top about leashed while in parking area and exiting the unleashed area.
Yeah.
I think we should put up at the top in its own bullet, designated off-leash area begins 50 feet into park from parking area or something like that. So that's its own thing.
Yep.
Yep.
They see that. And then the next one can be dogs must be leashed while in parking area or.
Yeah, we could almost define the off-leash area. So we have that off-leash area, Northfield Park only, and then that could be the first sentence even.
Yeah,
That the off-leash area, is considered, the area that is 50 feet or more off of the parking lot or whatnot. I don't know the proper way to phrase
yeah.
that.
50 feet
In on the trail.
or 50 feet from Northfield Road into park from Northfield Road.
I honestly
From
looked-
Northfield
haven't
parking
looked
lot.
at that parking lot. How much is that gonna give them
So if
parking lot?
there's, I've got grand hopes for this park that has nothing on it at the moment, but grand hopes that this forest is going to become the most popular place in town, I guess, by this next comment. The parking lot, the parking area, say it has enough parking spots for 3 cars, but then you have folks that are parking on the street or maybe the parking area has been flooded with mud. So now they're entering the park from further down Northfield Road, going towards the golf course, and they're entering from there. So if they don't enter from the parking area
So we're 50 feet onto the trail.
or into the park, because I don't even think there's not necessarily trails that go all around. By the way, Dave, your connections on that one, do you still have connections with the Boy Scouts?
Yes,
If you hear or want to plant a seed that there could be a park in town that could use at least a perimeter trail, that'd be awesome.
I shall pass it on.
That may be a good group for that. So, all right, I mean, I don't mind saying from the parking area, it's just,
From the sign? Is it from this?
that's a,
Like there is a sign there that's kind of off the road,
mhm.
50 feet beyond that sign.
You talking about the parking lot sign or is there a trail sign?
There's a trail sign,
There's a sign
Okay.
that designates the area.
Northfield Park,
Yeah.
Northfield Park sign.
So I would say 50,
there's
50
a
feet
sign
beyond
on-
that sign.
Sorry, Chris, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're good. Yeah.
There's a sign, and again, it was just a glance driving by, but there's a Table Rock sign on that side of the road also.
Doesn't it say Table Rock in Northfield Park?
It might. It just Table Rock caught my eye because that was the first part of it. I was driving by, so my brain didn't read it that fast.
Yeah.
That's
don't-
what I assumed, that it was joint parking.
Yeah, well, yeah, because there isn't, I'm not sure they've sorted, I haven't asked recently, but I'm not sure it's all been sorted out with the issue with the neighbor who had put like no trespassing signs are up up or something. So
Right.
I don't think there is really any drive-in access on that side. So I do think it's where parking starts for, where people are parking for Table Rock. So do you want to say from parking area or from Northfield Park sign, main Northfield Park sign?
I do
rather
it
go
from the sign.
trail
It's off the
sign.
road. Yeah. You
I'd
get an
rather
extra
go from the
cushion.
trail sign, because then it gets them 50 feet off the parking lot.
Yeah, to your point, Karen, if someone parks on the side of the road, there's, I parked here and then yeah.
Okay. All right, anything else that we want to have edited? Because I will request editing access from Dave. I'll change this up, resubmit it to everybody, and we can do a second read of it at the next meeting for approval.
I think it's good, Dave.
Okay,
Nice
Yeah.
job.
Awesome job. Thank you.
thank you.
Sweet. All right. Yep.
And hopefully, excuse me, hopefully we'll have it reviewed by town council before the next meeting too, so we can finalize it maybe.
Yep. I will get those edits. What I'll do is I'll make the edits. I'll send it over to you, Dave, so you can verify that I got the edits correct, and then
Yep.
we can send it off.
Okay. As soon as I figure out how to allow you to edit it.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
So is
I might
the
have
only
to call my
question
daughter and have her do it for you.
the only question is the fine that we have, right? Is the fine thing. Can we fine people?
Yeah, that, and I think it would be, I feel like I
Or who fines people? I mean, I suppose that's a police thing.
would think so. Not that we're gonna ask them to go out on the trails, but I don't know. You can see what they say. They could come back to us and say, we have no rights to be able to do that.
Just we say or receive a fine. It's just the threat of a fine. We never do it.
Yep. That's true, unless they watch this meeting. Hold on, that's me. That's the problem. Let me stop sharing this. That's the,
And me at the same time.
there you go. I'm on my,
Silence.
okay, so the next one is invasive plants on park properties. And one of the reasons we kicked it down to this meeting last time was because we were hoping for Susanna, since she has some experience in this area, and she's not here tonight, but I'm not sure I want to keep kicking it down the road. So I actually had some public comment that came in from Jared Bowser, who works at the town beach. Hold on one second. He works at the town beach and said that he didn't think he would be able to make it this evening. He did say that there is, let's see, the beach has a serious weed problem that may need to be addressed before next summer. He knows that the beach coordinator has been talking to the DPW director about it. And he doesn't want to step on any toes, but he would like it, he wanted to make sure it was being mentioned as part of the invasive plant discussion. And he is right, we have a weed issue down at the beach in the water that has been going on for years. Nobody, every time I think somebody's starting to take action on it, I'm not sure it ever gets followed through. There were some grand ideas back when our previous DPW director was here. But I do think we need to have a firmer hand in making sure that those weeds in the water get taken care of so that we can continue to have swim lessons and people can utilize that water. So I think that's an issue. And Dave, there's poison ivy at all the parks or just at Marshall?
Well, the ones that have been most prevalent in my, walking around the parks is at Marshall. I have something I'm going to add at the end here that's not on the agenda, but, unanticipated information that I'll give you an update on that is going to deal with some of that poison ivy, not all of it, but some of it.
Okay. So I'm thinking Rob's on vacation this coming week, or this week.
This week, yep.
Why don't I have a discussion with him in the week or so after he gets back? see if he has any plans for dealing with some of these invasive plants. He may already have something in the works that we're not aware of. And to see what he's got for the town beach, because I think anything that happens down there probably is gonna need conservation
Yep,
approval.
definitely.
So see what the plan is there. If it's something that I need to spearhead or somebody else does from the commission to make the steps happen to get in front of conservation, I'm happy to do so. Right now, I think they just have every now and again, some kids go swimming and they come up with a handful of weeds and they, are trying to control some of it that way. And I don't think that's the best way to be dealing with this.
Yeah, I think I've heard over the years that there was actually an adult, and I don't know who it was, that had time on his hands, apparently, from what I could understand. But anyway, would snorkel back and forth across the beach area there and actually pull the weeds and then take them off site and compost them. So
And
there
if
was
that's
some-
a viable way to do it, that I'm sure that there's services out there that we could contract with to have it done.
Right.
To relieve us of any liability. It's an eerie feeling to be swimming in that lake and suddenly you're treading water and you're feeling weeds coming up at your
Right.
feet and you're jumping 1,000 feet into the air from the water because you think that it's like, an octopus, a snake, knows what. So
That potentially alleviates that water priority waste. And then we saw the like at Marshall Park or Marshall
Yeah.
Pond.
Yep, and I think that one probably is a little bit more.
A little bit of snorkeler there.
And that one may be, because, some invasive plants are native plants and we may not be able to get rid of everything, but we also want to make sure that we have healthy ponds and healthy bodies of water that fall underneath us. So it may just be something as simple as, the DPW director having a plan for how to deal with the waterways. And he may already have something, because I know that he had somebody down there taking care of beavers.
Right.
Which
So,
actually, Karen, if you're in touch with him early in the week, if nobody's looked at it, the culvert coming out of Marshall Pond is blocked again.
okay,
The water level is at least 4 inches above the culvert.
we don't have to
pond
wait for
side.
Rob. We don't have to wait for Rob on that one. I'll make a call tomorrow. So the culvert's blocked coming out of Marshall
Yeah,
Pond.
okay.
Okay,
Yes, yeah, it's underwater on the pond side and it's only a partial flow coming on the downstream side. That's going to affect the roadbed if it gets too high.
partial flow on roadside. No.
Downstream side.
Downstream. Okay,
I just remember at one point they drained Hickory Hills to tackle some invasive issues.
They had a harvesting machine. It's like a paddle, like a huge paddle boat.
I didn't see the machine. I just remember like driving. All of a sudden, there was earth.
Yeah. And and I know that a few years ago, because we were part of this discussion with somebody that had come forward to say, this is what they're doing at Hickory Hills, and it had to do with these large, I'm going to call it burlap. I'm not sure that's the right term, but they were basically large sheets of material that were put down, and then rebar was put on top of it to keep it down. And then that starved the plants. They couldn't get the sun that they needed to continue to grow. So they would die off, and then they'd move that material. I don't know if it was successful down there. We talked about doing it at the park. At the beach. And then it seemed to fall to the wayside. There were a lot of great ideas that we talked about, and then they weren't executed. So, I think I remember who that was that brought that to our attention. So I can certainly reach out and ask if it works. I
like to see our waters be able to be enjoyed.
I do as well.
and,
At the same
kayaking or canoeing or what have you, and we're getting to a point with Marshall where that's not really.
And I think that
possibility.
having a healthy waterway is even more, yes, we want it healthy so that we can enjoy it. People can, utilize it for their recreation purposes. But I think at the same time, we have to be mindful that sometimes a healthy body of water needs to be healthy for the environment too. And it needs to be healthy for the wildlife that live in those ponds. And I think there's probably a happy medium someplace without harming anything that's in there now.
Sure.
But so let me talk to Rob, but I will report that culvert as soon as I'm done with this, and I'll follow up with a phone call tomorrow to make sure that it gets taken care of. Does anyone else have anything on the?
Just a note, Shirley Reservoir was treated recently because I heard a couple of residents talking about
Yeah.
asking at the post office, can we swim in there yet? And the response was no, boating only. So I don't know
Yeah.
how many more days they had left. But
I didn't look at the signs. I saw the signs up recently, but I didn't pay attention to them since there's really no public access for me to get in there and go for a swim.
well,
So-
that reminds me of another thing. We're going to be here all night.
Oh, gosh. I'm gonna go to the next thing then. I think that we need to follow suit with the finance committee, who are now putting their documents in a digital format online for everybody to have access to. They're using OneDrive. I know nothing about OneDrive. I sort of threw it on here to number one, see if everybody agreed that we should have a place that we can drop documents in a central location, so that, for example, I spent a few hours in the past few weeks. I have all of the all of the motions that have been made, with the exception of minutes and adjourning, compiled into one document from 2016 through, I think I'm up to 2021, but I need to go back over like the last few meetings because I don't know if I included those. But it would be nice to have those in one place for all commissioners to have access to, as well as DPW director and town manager.
Yep.
Is everybody thinking that would be a good idea?
I do. Yeah. And that'd be great.
Anybody
Yeah,
care what
I'm-
we use for a platform?
Not really. I still struggle with OneDrive, to tell you the
Okay.
truth, but, and Google Docs was a challenge for me, so that I'm not a good barometer of ease of use.
Well, we'll try to make it easy for you, Dave, even if it ends up being something that you are only, you only click on to read a document. If at least we'd have it in one spot. I don't know, I haven't followed along too much with how FinCom is using their OneDrive. I certainly know somebody that could probably show me how they're using OneDrive.
The one that created it.
The one that created, I don't know how he, and I'd be curious to ask why he chose OneDrive over something else. But it would be nice to even,
I suspect security in part.
could be, but it would even be nice to, yes, we have sometimes there's meeting materials that would be nice to be uploaded to the drive, because we're supposed to include those. So like tonight where we shared the
Dog
document,
policy.
that should be like with draft written on it, that should be included in the minutes. And it's sometimes hard to go back and figure out what you used and what you didn't. But if it's all in a folder titled July 28th meeting documents, it's all right there. And then we can just fish it out of there.
Yeah.
So let me, Dave, I'll look around since everybody seems to be in agreement that it would be a good idea. I'll look to see what the other options are other than OneDrive. And I may even go back to Steve Malandrinos. I don't know how the town doesn't have a town-wide system at this point for that. So maybe I can talk.
You really want to get into those weeds?
Well, I do, because you know what, and I think Tom Alonso made a good point last night at last night's meeting, if anybody heard it, when they were talking about the meeting minutes.
Yep.
He made a comment that now that we have this hired help to do these minutes, there should be some consistency in the way that they're done across the board, so that whether you're looking at Conservation Commission minutes or Park Commission minutes or whatever minutes, that there's some uniformity to it.
Look the
And I
same,
think
yeah.
that it would be nice that, you know, you say that OneDrive, you know, it can be a little difficult because you haven't figured it out yet, but if we used a different platform here for Park Commission, now you got to figure out two of them. And what happens if
Right.
TC Passios Building decides to do one and they're using a different one? And if you're opening these, giving access to other people, whether it be the public or it be different department heads, it'd be nice if they followed a uniform process or looked somewhat alike. So yeah, I'm willing to open that can of worms because I'm sure I'm going to be shot down anyway, but at least I can say I tried.
Yeah, Karen, the problem, one of the big issues, and that's why the OneDrive was decided on FinCom, because nothing else was going to move forward. But, you know, go ahead, try and knock yourself out and see what happens again. Is that there was a lot of concern on the town side of the types of documents that might get into that drive and be accessible to the public.
So here's my take on that. And it's obviously, and I can have further conversations with town manager about it and Adam Coster if we need to. But every document that we share as a Parks Commission that we send via email, that's open to the public. All they have to do is make it. So, you know, we wouldn't be putting anything. I don't think any group, there's anything that can be put up there that wouldn't be able to be shared. If there's something executive, if you go into an executive session and there's documents for that, I would just say, as a Parks Commission, I would recommend that we don't upload any documents like that that could be accessed. These would be for documents that we, you know, would send via email anyway, all the meeting documents, all the, you know, the motions that we've made, any like this policy. Because yes, it's nice to have it on the Park Commission page, and all of this stuff will get to the Park Commission page. But what happens if the Park Commission page, the bill doesn't get paid and then it gets shut down, or they have a hack into their server? And if that's the only place we had these documents and I leave the commission and then you guys leave the commission, there's no way to find them. So if we can do something that's tied to the Parks Commission and have it serve as the backup, or even the primary and the website would be the backup, I just think that's an important step to make sure everything that we've done doesn't get lost. Because honestly, I went through some of these motions that were made and there were things in there that I totally forgot about, and I'm not sure anybody else even knows about them because you guys weren't on the commission at the time. You know, so I don't know, just a thought. I'll work on it and see what I can.
Speaking of file sharing, do we know if any of the fee schedules and things like that, or have those been added to the website yet?
I don't know if they're on the website. I do know that they're out there though, because Little League has
I know they're going to go by the new one. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And the form that they used is the new form.
Okay.
It was forwarded to me yesterday because they sent I don't know when it actually came in, but it was sent to me yesterday because DPW admin wasn't sure what to do with it for use of the field from like early July through early August. And I noticed on there that it's the new form.
Okay.
So, but yes, that is on my list of things to make sure that gets onto the website as soon as somebody has not just access, but as soon as somebody knows how to do it. I know Rob has access. I would feel terrible asking him to go in and try to figure out how to do one more thing. You know what I mean? I think this has been a little more than.
Are there any other groups that need to receive that file for the fall or anything that way?
Just the Little League.
We don't have anybody else. Right? Okay. All right.
Just the Little League. So, and if we don't hire somebody soon, then I think that we as a commission should sit down as a group with or one or two of us sit down with the school superintendent to start working out the details of their usage, because their usage will be here before we know it.
Yeah, that's all coming coming up.
Yeah. Well, the spring, but.
But that discussion is coming up soon.
Yeah. So, all right, so that's good. Dave, I'm almost afraid of what you're throwing into.
Two
the next-
two things
No.
or two things, I think.
Two items. After our vote, I believe it was at the last meeting or maybe the one before. No, it was the last meeting, about the rehabbing of the surface of the track at Marshall Park. I spent a few days thinking about, okay, how the DPW director left it with us that night, and wasn't exactly sure whether he wanted to take it on by himself. So I had a chance to give him a call and have a conversation with him. Took him a day or two to get back to me because he was dealing with flooding when I called the first time. And I was out of town, so I didn't realize we had flooding down there like we did. I've never seen Moran Square underwater like that in my life. But I'm sure that areas in Lunenburg were also underwater also. Anyway, had a conversation with him about the things we talked about doing on the track sooner rather than later. And I asked him, and told him that, I've got some time now. And I've had already made a couple of initial contacts that he was aware of already. And would he like me to try to move things forward by coordinating and making phone calls and coordinating maybe site visits or whatever was needed to get the track work done before winter. And he was agreeable with that. And I told him that I would keep him informed of every step of the way as I was gathered information. So at this point, we're waiting for a professional to be available in mid to late August to give us an initial proposal for doing the surface of the track as we had discussed in that meeting. The first step may very well be a herbicide treatment to kill off all of the vegetation that's grown into the cinder. And I'm not sure what the time frame is for that to react and what chemical it would be or anything. That's not my purview at this point. But in conjunction with that treatment, the entity that will most likely do this for cost of materials only is also going to treat a swath of the poison ivy along the track on that corner closest to the basketball court and back a number of feet. Not going to go all the way down the bank into the basketball court, but we're going to at least eliminate the poison ivy within a reasonable distance of the track as a first step to controlling that area. That's the most extensive area of poison ivy that I recollect seeing in any of the parks. But again, I need to spend more time in some of the other parks looking specifically at those issues. So that's where that stands at this point, with hopes that the work might get done by October, including tilling and compacting the surface. I still need to make one more phone call for a commitment on the equipment that we feel would be the best to compact the track after it's been tilled and the materials been. There's actually a machine that can till the surface and screen out some of the materials and then drop it back down. Very similar to what was done on the town beach when that was processed this spring. Okay, that's the update on that. The other thing that I would like us to have on a future agenda and soon is a discussion and assign a member of this commission to start the process to get the Parks Commission care and custody of first Fitzgerald Field, which I think should be a high priority. Because on our list of projects, when I get a chance to send it to Anna, I've got Fitzgerald Field on there as a major overhaul. It depends a little bit on what that use is going to be down there over the next few years, but that park in general is in deplorable condition. Needs drainage and needs the whole resurfacing of the grassed areas. And the other property is the Parmenter Road property. As I say, Fitzgerald Field is the #1 priority. I think Parmenter in my mind is the second priority. I'd like to see us try to get both of them to special town meeting, but at least Fitzgerald Field, the special town meeting, we can get that like work done.
Okay. Yep, I will add that. And I will see if I can see what documents I still have floating in my, on my computer with information that I have on Fitzgerald Field.
Okay.
And I'll pull some old, I think it was also discussed at some point at open space meetings when I was a member of it, so I can try to pull some of that and start make that, that should be.
And I don't know who the best person is to get the scope of work that needs to get done for this to be accomplished. But I know it needs to go to town meeting once all the title work is done.
I honestly don't think it's, I don't even know if a title needs to be done, Dave, because we have title documents for Fitzgerald. We have I have the documents. I have all the, I just have to find them. And at one point there was some concern that maybe conservation was named in this, on that field, and that's why it was under conservation. But Brandon and I have looked multiple times, and the conclusion that I think we had come up with was that it, that was not the case, and that Parks has been using that as a baseball field for what, 40 years? I mean, they've been using it. Parks Commission has had care and maintenance of that field for, you know, many, many years. So
Probably half a century.
yeah, so I don't think the process would be that difficult. I think it would just be making, you know, formulating our case and getting the, getting assistance from town council and writing the warrant article that needs to go in front of the town. I don't know if much more legwork would need to be done, but I'll certainly see what I can dig up from what I have, because I think that may be a good place to start.
Okay.
But I gotta,
I just know that there are a couple of steps, because I think this Board of Selectmen vote is involved in there also, but I'm not 100% sure about that. I could be wrong.
no, I didn't think so, because I thought that it was, I thought ultimately it was town meeting that makes the decision.
Yeah, I think you're correct. And I think the important part before you go into town meeting is to clearly know, and Adam Costa will make sure, I would hope, that it's clear as to what the deeds say, who has care and custody of the property as the deeds are written, and then that we're transferring it from that care and custody to officially to Parks.
Yep. Yep. All right, I can, I'll start that. I put a big, I do have a star there. I'll do some digging on that in the next day or so. Does anybody else have anything? All right,
Nope,
so
I'm good at
if
this.
we stick with our same
Last Wednesday.
sync schedule, we would be doing the last Wednesday with it, which is the 29th of September.
August. We're skipping August.
Oh,
Yeah.
good. I skipped August, so
25th of August.
25th of August, that works for me. Does it work for you guys?
I'm good.
Yeah, I'll probably have a TCP Zoom meeting ahead of this one, ahead
Would
of
you
ours,
like-
but that'll work.
Do you want me to change us to 7 o'clock, Dave?
That would give us a little bit more room. I'm just trying to think what we thought we were going to be talking about, because I told the committee honestly earlier that I really didn't know what we were going to talk about because nothing's happened so far on the contract's not finalized, so on and so forth. So
So what,
Um,
I can do 6:30, I can do 7, you tell me. Chris, do you
Let's do
care
s-
either direction?
I don't, no, I don't care.
yeah, 7 would give me a little more breathing room. That'd be great.
Okay. I'll send out a meeting.
you.
I'll send out something shortly to everybody so that they can see when our next meeting is. I also want to get Little League in to have a conversation with us, but I do want to do it when Rob is able to attend a meeting. So I'm gonna check in with him and see what his schedule looks like. I think we could actually do them in September versus trying to do it in August. I thought this was a fairly light agenda, but here we are over 2 hours later, so
Yep.
it wasn't as quick as I thought it was gonna be. So I hate to jam pack things. I think that I think once we hit like the 2.5 hour mark, you definitely start losing me. So
Would the skate park have any updates by the end of August?
I will ask them. I actually asked them to come this evening, like 3 days ago, and they weren't available. He's like, I'm available next week. I'm like, this is when we're meeting, so I'll certainly send an invite to them, telling them that we're meeting on this day. And if they would like to attend, I'll give them a time slot, so they don't have to sit through our whole meeting.
Sure.
And I'll ask them.
Karen,
Yeah,
sorry, does Little League have a copy of our dumpster and?
they do. And actually,
Oh,
let me update you guys on that
Policy.
right now, because I literally just got a response from him. He said, so I had sent a copy of it and I asked him to send over a copy of the service agreement to us. He said that he was away on vacation and he just needed to follow up. He said he doesn't know if they have a service agreement, as they've been a customer for several years. He said, we just call up and they start charging their credit card. They do send paper invoices to our PO box. We can send over one of those. He told us who the company was, recommended that we don't use them. He also said we probably will have the bathrooms and dumpsters picked up in the next 2 weeks. There's an outside shot that we will field fall in September. So he's working on that. I told him that I would send over the Board of Health stuff too. He's gonna have to call, if they stay with the company they're with, he's gonna have to call and get a service agreement, because not only are we going to require it, the Board of Health is requiring it, and they're requiring the septic collar
Mhm.
approval. So we're gonna need to get that in order to make sure they're compliant on our side and on the Board of Health side. And I think I need to have a follow-up conversation with Andrea to see when outside groups use it, if she wants them to go to us and then we collect this information and send it off to them, or if she wants them to go to the Board of Health directly. I'm not quite sure which one she wanted us to do. So I want to verify that, but we may be able to do it, send us all this stuff, include parks and include the Board of Health on it, and kill 2 birds with 1 email, but I'll double check with her.
Okay.
So,
Just to turn the screw a little bit, the last time I was down at Marshall Park, I have a picture of it, but I didn't bother to send it to you. The dumpster was wide open and the lock is gone.
okay. And I drove by McNally, and I didn't think there was a dumpster over there. There was a dumpster, but we didn't see a portable facility. And I don't remember seeing a portable facility when I was at Fitzgerald last week, but my eyes could be deceiving me.
I thought there was one way over in the corner
I may
behind
not
the
have seen, I may not have
parking
seen,
lot.
we had a gaggle of kids. What else is new? But we had a bunch of kids and they were running in the field, and my back was towards the little parking area. So I may have just missed it. So anyway, all right, I'll send out, as I typically do, an email asking if there's any new agenda items anybody wants. I'll go through tonight's and pull the stuff that needs to make it to the next agenda. And if nobody else has anything, we are good to adjourn at 8:41. Anybody want to
We
move that?
adjourn.
Okay,
Hey, I got a question for you, Karen.
yeah,
Adjournment vote, that's required to be unanimous, isn't it?
I don't know.
I think I've heard that. I've been meaning to research that, but anyway.
Are you
yes,
planning on?
Not, not,
Not tonight.
Uh-huh.
I will motion to adjourn.
All right, so Dave
Okay, I'll-
motioned.
Oh,
you're
I'll
seconding
second. I'll
this?
second then.
All
Sure.
right, so this is the only roll call vote of the night. Dave,
I
Chris,
Aye.
and it's an aye from myself. Thanks, guys. We will see everybody
Good
next
night.
month.
Good
Thanks.
night.
Bye.